There are 5 preeminent sports leagues in the United States today. Obviously, there's the National Football League, the NFL, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League, National Basketball Association, and Major League Soccer. But every year there are more and more sports leagues coming together. In the past couple of years, we've had the Arena Football League, Major League Lacrosse, the National Lacrosse League, and also the Women's NBA, which has been around for a little bit longer, but still it's one of the newer ones.
Other leagues, minor, other, and worldwide. Baseball, basketball, football, hockey, soccer, minor league affiliates. Other, baseball, minor league, independents, football, women's, hockey, roller hockey, team tennis, NASCAR teams, and South America, Europe, Middle East, Asia, Australia, and Africa. They have rugby, cricket, baseball, basketball, Australian rules, and American football, soccer, hockey, and volleyball.
History-wise, the first professional sports team was in 1869, the Cincinnati Red Stockings. They're still around today as just the Reds. But they basically went across America on a barnstorming tour. They would go to different cities and play the best the city had to offer. In all, there were 10 players on the team, and the payroll was $9,300, which was actually per player. It was a big difference between your average worker working annual salary anyway, just like it is today. In 1876, we had the first pro league, which was the National League for Baseball. It had a constitution which included limits on franchise movements, club territorial rights, and a mechanism for expulsion of a club. Basically, a lot of those things are still around today, but it has changed a lot. And basically, there was a switch from self-government governance and corporate governance model. The self-governance was that the leagues organized themselves, and the corporate was that the owner acted as a board of directors, the commissioner is the CEO of the league.
Single entity structure, limited liability company with owners investing money in the league as a single entity. It avoids financial and antitrust liability, created centralized fiscal control, and done by MLS, followed by the WNBA, AFL, NLL, etc. Lawsuit, the MLS players argued that the structure restrained competition and depressed players' salaries. MLS was found to be a hybrid, that's the Supreme Court ruling.
Basically, the hybrid is a traditional sports league, but it had aspects of a single company as well. And the exact Supreme Court ruling was that a traditionally structured league with separate owners having individual control of the teams or not a single entity, it's actually just a league format. So that's what it is today. In the chapter, it talked a lot about the franchise ownership, especially the NFL. Back then, it was more of like a family kind of business, but today, since there's so much revenue to be earned, the focus of owning a team is running a business, not as a hobby. New NFL owners are looking to maximize local revenue to make a return on their investment. This is causing kind of a stir-up. Most recently, Jerry Jones entered into a lot of marketing deals with his stadium that he just built, and some of which ambush the league's exclusive deals, which basically say they can't use the logos, they can't use the team names because the NFL actually owns that. And some of the owners have a problem with this because they paid millions of dollars and even hundreds of $millions for their clubs, while others have inherited their clubs, so they don't have to exactly have a return on revenue. And just as an example, Jerry Jones paid $140 million for the team, which is the Cowboys, while like the Rooney family that owns the Steelers basically inherits it every generation, so they don't have to go after the increased profits just to get a return.
Ownership rules. Permission granted by the ownership committee of the league. Each league imposes restrictions on ownership, limit on the number of franchise rights granted, restriction on location, territorial rights, revenue sharing, right to serve on ownership committees. Leagues may also impose eligibility criteria. MLB has no formal ownership criteria, but has key characteristics it looks for when granting ownership rights. The NFL still has the most strict ownership rules.
In some of the MLB criteria is basically they have to have a great deal of financial assets that they can put into the team. They have to have a good standing with the local government and also the community. They have to give back something to the community overall. And as for types of ownerships, there's a couple different types. The NFL really is strict about this. There's corporate, which is the team is owned by a corporation. It was banned by the NFL, and there's one lone exception, and that is the San Francisco 49ers, which is owned by the DeBartolo company. There's public ownership by stockholders, which basically means anybody can buy a share of the team and they're partly an owner of it. That was also banned by the NFL, and the only exception was the Green Bay Packers, because they were publicly owned before the 1970 rule was in place. And then there's cross ownership, which is basically owning multiple teams, and it was banned until 1997. Today there's ways around it. For example, you can own multiple franchises in the same market, and that would be like the Dolphins, the Panthers, and the Marlins. They all have one owner because it's the same Florida market. And there's also a rule that says you can own an NFL franchise in one market and another franchise in another market, as long as the second market doesn't have an NFL team. So that would be like Paul Allen, who owns the Seattle Seahawks, and also the Portland Trail Blazers, because Portland doesn't have an NFL team.
Labor relations, history, and baseball. Brotherhood of Professional Baseball Players, First Players Association. John M. Ward in 1885 fought reserve system salary caps and selling players without players receiving a share of the profits. He eventually failed. Led to the Players League, rivaled the National League. 3-year contract salary could only increase. Folded after a year, the National League spent $40 million to bankrupt it. 3 more unsuccessful attempts throughout the next 6 decades.
Today's Players Associations are really from the past. The first one was the MLB Players Association in 1966. It was initially dominated by management and was limited to topics such as pension and insurance. But Marvin Miller convinced the players that each of them was essential to the game revenues. He used issues like minimum salary, per diem, pension, insurance, salary, and grievance arbitration. And it was the first truly successful players association because all the players came together and the big shots didn't really just go after what they earned, they all acted as a group. And then there was the NBA Players Association, which was established in 1954, but it wasn't really recognized by the NBA until 1964, 10 years later. The average salary was $8,000 per year with no minimum salary, pension, or per diem. But then in 1964, at the All-Star game, the big members of the union and also were part of the All-Star team, which were Bob Cousy, Heinsohn, and Oscar Robertson. And they threatened not to play in the NBA's first televised All-Star game that year, which really gave them the victory overall, and the NBA ended up actually accepting the Players Association because of it.
Key concepts: revenue, television/radio contracts, licensing, sponsorships. Local revenues stay on the team, with the Yankees versus Pirates. Legal issues, contract issues, salary cap, antitrust.
That was Ilya Kovalchuk. Last year he was a free agent, and the Devils tried to sign him to a 17-year, $100 million contract. The league kind of went off on that because it was completely unrealistic. They said that by the time that contract expires, he'd be 44, and due to the percentage of players that have actually played past 42, they ixnayed it, and also because it was really loaded front end, and then he made nothing in the last couple years of the contract.
And race and gender, much improved over the last few years. Bob Johnson of the Charlotte Bobcats, he was African American. Arte Moreno was Mexican American with the Los Angeles Angels. And Lapchick, according to Lapchick, all 5 major sports received a grade of A in racial and gender report card.
And then the industry format, you have the commissioner, who basically acts as the head of the league. You have league office personnel, which varies widely. You have positions such as administration, properties, and entertainment. The team general manager, which is head of all player personnel decisions. He's the guy that signs the free agents, makes the trades, etc., which have to be then approved by the rest of the league in most cases. You have the team front office personnel, which again is very wide variety. You have sales, promotions, operations, marketing. In leagues like the PGA Tour or the tennis tour, you have the tour personnel, various positions again, marketing, special events, just like you would have with the team front office. And then you have agents who represent both teams and players, and they represent the business and financial affairs of both.
Current issues, globalization, scouting, evaluating, drafting, and signing international players, more prevalent and more complicated. Marketing to countries with superstar athletes like Yao Ming in China, Ricky Rubio in Spain, Dirk Nowitzki in Germany. 20% of NBA TV and merchandise revenue is now international.
And it's really big now because a lot of, especially in China back before Yao retired last year, the whole country was really getting involved in watching the NBA games, and they were able to televise it in China and make more profits because of it. Same applies to Dirk in Germany, and as soon as Ricky Rubio decides to actually come to the NBA, which could be this year if there's actually a season, they're going to try to do the same thing in Spain, just to create more revenue. My career implications are that I'm really interested in working in NBA franchises basketball operations, whether it be in the front office and more of a GM type position one day. Throughout the chapter I learned numerous possible positions and options, basically from video coordinator to making your way up to the general manager position. And it really, one of the big things for me was team scouting, where you scout college players before the draft and also international players. And I learned the hierarchy of a professional sports team organization, which was in the book. It showed the Miami Heat's organization and their front office directory, step by step, and basically gives you an idea of how you can move up as long as you're successful in your endeavors.
And I'm really interested in professional sports. The dream is soccer, whether it be MLS, UPL, Serie A, FIFA, doesn't really matter. Since I want to work in the soccer world, knowing how the MLS differs from like the other American leagues is important and interesting. I would be happy with any professional sport job, whether it be commissioner, manager, agent, or personnel